the President, CEO of the United Way of Jackson County, Ken Toll. Ken, welcome back.
Hey, Bart.
How you doing?
Doing great.
Good. And Ken is just back from France. Where? How many times is this now?
This was time number 7.
7?
Yeah.
Wow.
We're going to have to learn the language if we go back again. I think it's inevitable.
I think you all can credit the back-to-back program.
Absolutely. We had to go there the first time because my 5th grader was sick on back-to-back, and we went there to help her out and fell in love with the place. Now we keep going back.
Do you go to different places when you go?
Yeah, this time we went to the West Coast and spent a week eating seafood, incredibly fresh seafood.
Nice.
It was unbelievable. Yeah.
Well, welcome back.
Thank you.
And your mission now is continue to help Jackson County residents in their cycle of poverty.
Correct.
Right.
Help get them out of it. Yeah.
Get them. Yeah. And tomorrow you have a special event.
Yeah. You know, I've been the CEO for over 14 years, and I've had 13 annual meetings where we eat rubber chicken and bring in a motivational speaker and make a little tiny bit of money. And this year we decided to do something different, where our annual meeting has been replaced by a lunchtime event we're calling Leaders Engage. And we're inviting a whole bunch of leaders from different sectors. We've already invited, I should say. We have over 100 people lined up to come. People from the public sector, city, county government, elected officials, townships, school boards. We've got business leaders, small and large businesses. We've got nonprofit leaders. They're all coming together to engage in how can we scale up our solutions and do even more to combat the cycle of poverty we've been stuck in.
Yeah, so you've had 13 years of, same old, you get together, you meet, you hear all these problems are terrible, we've got to start working on them.
Right.
How is this going to be? How's this going to be different?
Yeah, well, we call it Leaders Engage because we need people to engage. We've been talking to people in poverty for a long time. We've got tons of data, and we know there are a lot of individual programs that can help. But we need a community-wide, systems change. You can't fight poverty with a new program here and a new program there. We need to scale it up and do more and get a lot of new programs and a lot of new thinking. And so this is our chance to bring, like I said, a whole bunch of influential leaders into the room at once and say, let's get your opinions. Which do you think has the most traction? Which would you support United Way moving on? And will you come together with us to move these forward in a bigger way than we've been able to in the past?
I know one of the problems is there's not one cause of poverty.
Correct.
There's many.
Yeah.
Are you finding areas that you can maybe attack that are where people end up starting in poverty?
Yeah, I mean, the easy answer to that is education. We've been working, as you know, with energizing education, trying to make sure kids get out of the prison to pipeline, or school to prison pipeline, and into the school to college pipeline. And we've been incredibly successful with that program. That's inoculating the next generation against poverty, and that's a good place to start. And we continue to support Cradle to Career and other educational efforts as well. But we know there are a lot of big things we haven't been able to tackle as a community yet. Transportation comes up every single time as a challenge. If you don't have money for a car or you can't afford high insurance rates, you may have trouble getting to a job. And if you can't get to a job, how do you work and pull yourself out of poverty? It becomes that cycle again. So we know there are some things we haven't done as a community very well. Transportation, childcare, our recurring needs. But we also know there's a lot we could be doing in terms of work supports. There's a lot of open jobs in Jackson right now, over 1,000 open jobs, and a few thousand people who don't have jobs. There's something we can do to make that intersection make more sense and get some of the people into those jobs that are needing them.
Yeah, I mean, that's the employer's biggest problem. They can't find people.
Exactly, yeah, yeah. And we know there are a lot of people who just have some soft skills deficits, so if employers are willing to bend a little and support their workers a little bit more, those people can become very productive. The JobStar program is proving that you can onboard returning citizens or people with poor soft skills, and with a little extra attention, you can make them into a solid gold employee. But it does take a different mindset. So that's one thing that we're gonna challenge some of the employers in the room to think about. How can you onboard some of these folks who are more challenged and make them a loyal, productive worker? We wanna help do that. And we know soft skills is a big issue, that there are a lot of people who just aren't used to getting up every morning, aren't used to dressing for success, aren't used to not swearing at the boss when he says you've done something wrong. A lot of people just need some behavioral cues as well.
That's not accepted?
Not in my place. I don't know about yours.
10 years ago, if you were an ex-felon, you could not get a decent job. But that's changed. And like in construction, for example, there are employers actively seeking people who have gotten out of prison.
Absolutely, and skilled trades are doing that right now as well. There's a lot of skilled trades apprenticeships that are paying 14, 15, 16 bucks an hour to start. with an $80,000, $100,000 an hour job waiting after a couple of years. And they are actively recruiting returning citizens because they're not able to find others who want to do that kind of work. And the opportunities are huge, but we know a lot of folks, we did an expungement fair a couple months ago as well. I think I talked to you about that. So a lot of folks who don't have felonies but have maybe a couple misdemeanors who are still showing up on those background checks and not getting the interviews, we can wipe those records clean for the public to see and get those folks employed as well. And most employers would have no idea that they were convicted of a misdemeanor once they hire them and find out how good an employee they are.
So tomorrow at your event, Leaders Engage, do you have an idea what the program's going to look like, how it's going to run?
Yeah, we don't have a lot of time, so it's pretty well scripted. We have two different panels. One is a panel of business folks, 4 people who are going to talk about challenges that business sees in terms of onboarding employees and retaining talent and working with people who have maybe poor soft skills or deficits. And then we have a panel of community members that are going to talk about some of the programs and services they're trying to do to fill that gap and really help. It's really focused mostly on employment this particular time. But then we're going to have people do some tabletop conversations, and there's going to be a note taker at every small group listening to what they're saying about where United Way and the community should pull together and try to address this. You know, like you said, what's the first place to start? We want to make sure we get some consensus, because if we get consensus, we can build support and make something really big happen. You and I have been talking about poverty for a few years now. We know it's the biggest issue. It cuts across everything and impacts every sector. But we have yet, as a United Way, to really pull the community together and fully focus on that. Our campaign hasn't gone up, even though we're working on the right issue. And this is our chance to engage a bunch of voices and say, what could we do better? What could we do different? What would you support? Give us all your ideas. And then we promise to take and digest these into a paper, and we'll be reporting back to the community in a couple months. We want to share it wide. I want to come back on the show and share it with you, share it with any constituency that wants to hear it about what we heard, and how can other groups build on that information and join with us and leverage their support as well.
So you'll be giving these folks an assignment or a call. There'll be a call to action at this event tomorrow?
There will be some calls to action. There are some things people can do right now. JobStar is growing like crazy. We plan to add 2 more cohorts in the next few months, so it's your last chance if you're an employer to hear about that. There are a couple other things people can do right now, but really we want their ideas and their input most of all. We want some honest conversation in small groups around what would these folks support Jackson really focusing on. And if we can get the right focus out of that, like I said, we can build campaign and get some really interesting stuff done. So we want people to bring their brains tomorrow more than anything.
I know the first few years where you focused on this issue, a lot of it was educating people. I think a lot of people were surprised to hear some of the stories and statistics.
Yeah.
So are we past that? Do you think the message has gone through?
Well, a lot more people I talk to know what ALICE means, and they understand that working poor is very real and that the federal poverty level is a joke. Don't base anything on that we still have 4 out of 10 households that aren't making enough to get by. I think more and more people understand that minimum wage jobs aren't enough, that you can't support a family and really succeed unless you're making pretty good money these days, and we know that those jobs aren't being created fast enough. So it really becomes an important conversation for the whole community to still have. Are we going to relegate ourselves to trying to create enough support so that people who are in minimum wage jobs can scrape by? Or is there an alternative out there that we can change some policies, change some structures, change a lot of different things so they don't have to scrape by anymore? That's the future. We like to paint, and I think United Way is very good at bringing people together and having those honest conversations and then scaling up and trying to create a complex solution that'll make it happen.
How about those in poverty? Are they coming to you and saying, okay, I understand what you're trying to do here. What's my responsibility? How can I participate in me being one of those families that you want to get in financial stability by 2025?
Sure. We've talked to people in poverty for years, as you know, maybe even back when you were on the board. We did a series of listening tours. We went to the Interfaith Shelter. We went to the First Bank of the Church of the Nazarene Food Pantry. We went to the Jackson Youth Center and talked to kids who were incarcerated. We talked to hundreds of people who were struggling about the issues they were facing, what challenges they saw, what kind of help they were open to. And they were really open to pretty much anything. They weren't saying, here's exactly what we need. They were saying, yeah, it really sucks to be poor, and we could surely use some help, and thanks for asking us. They're the first person who's asked us, was a very common response we got when we had those conversations. It was fascinating. We know some of the things that we need to do. We certainly will continue having conversations with folks in poverty, but it's not a secret that you can't get by right now if you're making $9 or $10 an hour, especially with our car insurance rates and our roads that lead to car repairs and all those challenges we face. Conversely, we've seen that JobStar works really well. The companies that are in our cohort, our first cohort of the Business Resource Network, are reporting incredible gains in their workplace culture, in their loyalty, and their retention. They love that program. So we've proven a small intervention in the workplace, a little bit of extra support, can go a long way towards helping people succeed. We just need to find some more of those special sauces, I think, some more of those interventions. But as you said, we still have a lot of work to do to educate people. There are still a lot of people who don't know 4 in 10 households aren't making enough to get by. That still surprises some people, but we're making traction. Every week I see more and more people who get it, who understand it, who want to engage in the conversation now. What
Good.
can we do different?
Well, a lot of small steps, and the big step tomorrow. Everyone that is being included tomorrow has been invited. They've got everything all set. So you'll, though, come back with reports for our viewers.
I'd love to come back soon and share it. Yeah.
Great. Well, good luck tomorrow. I'll be anxious to hear how it goes.
Thank you. Thanks for all your support.
You bet. The CEO of the United Way of Jackson County, Ken Toll. We're ready to celebrate its birthday.